Hello, I am Bert van Wassenhoven and welcome to episode 22 of my podcast on innovation and entrepreneurship. We are at Transforma in Brussels today, in Evere, and we're going to talk with Théo from Muuselabs, the guys behind JOOKI, about life before and after Kickstarter. Well, not really life, but entrepreneur's life. How do you do a Kickstarter? What are pros and cons? How do you go about crowdfunding? But also, how do you bring the product finally to market, physically and from a marketing point of view? A very interesting discussion this was. Enjoy the podcast.
Théo, so you're the founder, co-founder of Muuselabs, which is the company behind the JOOKI.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit more in brief. I mean, you've demoed JOOKI probably.
You know the product.
I know it. I have one at home. I'm very happy with it. I'm not the target group, but I'm still using it.
Yeah.
But maybe you should, we've seen a small demo, but give a small explanation. What's your 20-second pitch on JOOKI?
JOOKI makes kids independent in playing music and stories. So it's actually, it's a Wi-Fi speaker, and it works with these little smart toys, and each figurine is a playlist. The only thing the kid has to do is to pop it on top of the player to start playing that particular playlist. Not just one song, it's a playlist. You can go to the next one, and if you put another figurine, you will have a different playlist. So this is actually super easy, super fun for the kids to play whatever music and story they want, and we make it super easy for the parents to configure those. You can use it the old-fashioned way. You can copy your MP3s to it, but especially this guy connects to streaming services like Spotify or Deezer. So this is actually a Spotify playlist. I just place it on, and it immediately starts. And it's very easy for the parents to configure it. We have an app for that, and makes everybody happy.
Cool.
Next to the figurines, we also have these little guys. We call them tokens. They have the same functionality, except that you can personalize them. You can put stickers, you can put photos, or you can even write on them. And you can do like your mixtapes.
Best playlist ever.
Who remember? Best playlist, exactly.
Best dad ever.
Exactly.
That's when we come to the innovation part. We should talk about that.
Yeah.
By the way, we're doing this podcast in English. Mm-hmm. I spontaneously switched to English when talking to you, although that is not your native language.
Nope.
What's your native language?
It's a mess. So the language I speak best is French.
Okay, so we could have heard that, but you cannot be French because your English is too good.
Well, it depends. If you ask me politely, usually the French accent can surface, but normally I try to hide it.
En uw Nederlands is eigenlijk ook niet slecht.
Het hangt een beetje van de dag af.
Vandaag is geen Nederlandsdag? Of,
dat kan. Mijn Nederlands is meer... ik kan dat vorige keer spreken rond een pintje of een glas water met een pint.
Glas water. Okay, volgende keer een pintje. But we didn't talk about it, but we chose English because that's where you feel most comfortable with, I think. Where we both feel most comfortable in. But you're not Belgian.
Nope.
So you're French then?
Yeah, I'm a European mess. So I'm a French guy. I'm actually born in Romania.
Okay.
Moved to France when I was a small kid, nine years old. Studied in France, then in Ireland, and then actually came to Belgium because that was that's the place where I got my first job. I had
Wow, how did you end up in Belgium?
How I ended up in Belgium? There is a cool city called Leuven, and in Leuven there's a cool place called IMEC.
Okay.
And I was doing engineering studies, so I ended up for an internship in there. I was, during summer, and you have all these cool things like Marktrok. So it's a very student city, so I liked it very much. And then I went to finish the last year of my studies. That was an exchange in Ireland. And then, I've applied for jobs, and the first CV I sent was to IMEC, and within a few days, they paid me an airplane trip. I went for an interview, I got a job, and I was a happy camper, quietly finishing my studies and knowing that I'm going to a cool place.
So you're an engineer then? like a real engineer?
I'm a real engineer. I have a real engineering degree. Yes.
In engineering in
microelectronics.
Microelectronics. Okay.
Yep.
So we see there's something here.
There's something here. I mean, it's theoretically, is more into the design of the chips that go in there.
Okay.
Though I've never designed chips myself, but I was doing some research on like multimedia systems.
Okay. And then you moved to West Vlaanderen.
And then I moved to West Vlaanderen, and there was
Of all places.
Of all places, yes.
Did you actually move? Because you work for Barco. Right?
Yes, I worked for Barco for I think 7 years, 5 years in West Vlaanderen doing product management in the very exciting digital cinema branch.
Okay.
I was very, very lucky because I joined Barco Digital Cinema at the moment where the market was going through a transformation, going from film projectors to digital cinema projectors, and this has been like an exponential curve, and I was there exactly when the exponential was going super steep. So that was a very exciting time, bringing to market a lot of new products. So it was a lot of fun.
And then you have a nice diploma, you have an international profile, you are an engineer people want at IMEC, you work at Barco in a successful company, in a successful market, and then you say everything goodbye and you said, I'm going to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, apparently I change things about every, it looks like it's about every 7 years. So it took me about 7 years at IMEC, and then I've decided to, because I went pretty deep into the engineering side, and then I went to do some business studies so that I could get a stamp, is crazy enough to do also business and not only engineering, and then that's really when I, cut my teeth into the more industrial side of things. And then, incidentally, apparently it was also 7 years, when there was a bit of an event. I mean, I have 2 daughters, and at the time they were 3 and 4 years old, and I was trying to expose them to music. And I got them used to a song, and they wanted me to play that song over and over and over and over again. And to cut a long story short, I made a mistake. I ended up by giving them my smartphone. And then a bunch of things happened. The phone disappeared. The kids, they disappear behind the screen. So no more communication. And then I have to be behind them every 2 minutes, to check what they were watching on YouTube, because they immediately end up on YouTube anyway. Even if they're only watching music videos, then you don't know what's going on.
You don't know what the next video is going to be.
So, and at the time I was like, I found it crazy that to listen to audio, I had to give them a screen. So that's really what triggered me. Probably not having done any technical work for like about 7 years, it was something itching. So during a weekend, I put together some very crude prototype of something where you would put an object onto something and would start playing music, so there was no screen. And they loved it.
Okay.
So ended up turning it into a project, into a company, finding some super cool people to start a company with, and
more engineers.
Here we are. More engineers, yes.
I don't want to make this a constant, but I know Peter and this is your other colleague. You're 3 engineers, okay, you've kind of made a...
They kicked me out of the lab.
Okay, so they threw you out. Okay, so maybe that's a good idea. Not because you're not a good engineer, but because
they were better. and they need somebody to do something else.
Okay, yeah, okay. But how does that work? How do you build a company? I mean, who takes which responsibility? Or have you guys been very product focused, or have you been looking at the business side from the very start? How did that work?
I think we've done both. There was a real problem that I had to solve, and then I went. So I was on my own for a while. I mean, I was not in a position to start a company like that. So I actually went to the market and I studied, whether there were solutions. I went to toy fairs and tried to learn a bit more about the market. So there was serious market research behind it. But then it was, I mean, basically Will and Peter joined me in this adventure because they wanted to start a company, because we all love technology, and because we were dads and having exactly the same problem at the same time. So it was, I think, a problem-centric, solution-centric approach to starting a company.
Did you then take the methodology from what you learned at, say, Barco and apply it to your startup? Or did you take a different approach?
I learned a lot of things at Barco. Not everything you can translate immediately. What surprised me initially is that I wasn't expecting that you have so much infrastructure to put together. I mean, when you start and you don't have a company, just the legal entity of a company and an accountant, and in Belgium a business plan to start a company, or a financial plan to start a company. And obviously, you know, all the financing, like the mere infrastructure was something that was a fight from day one that I wasn't expecting.
How much of your time in the beginning did that take? So you were three. You were Will, Peter, and you. You're the business guy.
Yes.
So how much of your time over the past, it's been what, 2 years, 3 years?
3 years.
3 years. Let's say the first year, how much of your time did there go to the non-product stuff, let's say?
Of my time?
Yeah, just your time.
I would say 80%.
Really?
Yes. But there was it was actually a longer story. So we started with the idea of what became JOOKI. It wasn't called JOOKI at the time. We didn't have a proper name. And then, because it's a kids product, I assumed it would be sold through the toy channels. Not knowing the toy industry, basically I decided to find somebody who can help us in the toy industry, a real professional.
Yeah.
And that's when we came across Mr. Alan Munn, who is today an investor in the company, who's an advisor, and who helped us a lot in the toy industry. He's himself the former CEO of Tommy in Europe. So he knows extremely well the industry. So he took me by the hand and showed me how the industry works. We realized that what we had in mind wasn't molded to the traditional toy industry. So we've actually decided pretty early on to do a product pivot. So we've made something else on JOOKI that has never seen the shelves. Yes, so there was a longer story that kept us busy for 9 months, that looked very promising, that didn't happen in the end. So that was fundamentally my strategy to finance the launch of JOOKI, was run the other product through a licensing deal that in the end didn't happen, and then invest that money into JOOKI.
Yeah.
We were super lucky at the very beginning to get a significant grant from European Union that actually helped us kickstart the whole thing.
All right. So then you.
And then we discovered that this was, our product pivot in the toy industry wasn't mature enough, or it just didn't work out, and we decided to go back to what we really wanted to do, which was this device. And then we followed the more traditional Kickstarter story.
Okay, so JOOKI went on Kickstarter.
Yes.
2 years ago, I think.
Yeah, that was the summer of 2016.
Yeah.
So it took us a while to get at the marketing level that was reasonable enough to launch a Kickstarter campaign. This was still mostly the three of us, and that's where you actually start seeing the limits of not having professional marketeers on board. I mean,
it worked.
It worked. I mean, I think we had one of the biggest Kickstarters in Belgium.
How much did you raise? Not really raise.
Well,
yeah,
on Kickstarter in Belgium we got something like 55K, I think. We ended up in total at 80K on crowdfunding with Kickstarter and Indiegogo.
Okay, so you did both.
Yeah, so we learned all the tricks, and one of the tricks is you start your campaign on Kickstarter. I mean, we had started in there, and then other crowdfunding platforms like Indiegogo have something like Indiegogo in demand, and we could switch the campaign from Kickstarter into the in demand, and still, capture the longer tail of that demand.
Catch the rest.
For us, Kickstarter was more a proof to the world, so explaining to the world what the product really was, and showing that there was a real interest, and that allowed us to raise money to go into the industrialization, and then raise money to go into production. Really, that's not the way you want to do it. I mean, if you want to do this,
why not? How would you want to do it? So, if you would do it again, would you again do a Kickstarter, or what would you do different?
I think Kickstarter was great for us. What we didn't do well is that you want to be a funded company before you go to Kickstarter. Kickstarter has become extremely competitive. There are a lot of great projects out there. They have heavy marketing budgets, both for videos but also for driving traffic. To be a successful Kickstarter, you want to be permanently number 1 or number 2. I mean, on the Kickstarter page, and you achieve that by bringing your own traffic, and by staying there. Then there's a virtuous loop on Kickstarter that brings their own backers. But otherwise, it's tough. And bringing your own traffic means that you've done a very solid pre-campaign to get funded within a few hours. I mean, and then you have to keep on bringing traffic, which means press is writing less and less about Kickstarter. It's even a disadvantage to be on. And then you have to pay for it.
It's no longer novel to be on Kickstarter.
No. And then you have to pay for the traffic. So you have to be financed.
Then you need money. So first find some financing, then go on Kickstarter. Use it as a way. Is it still a validation, or did you guys? Is it? Some people see it. It's a way to validate my product and see if I can get enough traction there, we can continue. Or is it a marketing thing? Or is it basically sales? It's one thing. It's not fundraising.
No, it's definitely not fundraising. I mean, just Kickstarter is more like debt. People say like, I've raised money on Kickstarter. Actually, you just committed to your backers that you're going to deliver a product, and you have just taken, the amount of your funding you have taken as debt towards them. Because if your project fails and you have a reputation, you should really reimburse them. That's not what. I mean, not everybody does that. Some people
try to get out.
are very, manage to do that, and that's great. We manage to deliver, which is obviously which is what you want to do.
But is it product validation? I had the feeling you guys were already beyond that.
I think they are different. I mean, you have mentioned 3 strategies, and I think they're valid for different types of products. Some Kickstarters are one-offs, fads. They're only meant to be on Kickstarter, and they're making a lot of money, and then they will move on to make another successful Kickstarter. That was obviously not our strategy. Some people use it to prove traction. Now, Kickstarter is a very specific platform. The audience on it, it's 80-90% US people, mostly male, young, without kids. And typically the profile is tech guys who want to have the coolest, newest thing. So it's kind of they're buying for themselves. So us going there with a kids product is more challenging. There've been some very successful Kickstarters for campaigns for kids products, but it's not your main audience to prove traction. And even if you prove traction on Kickstarter, it doesn't mean that you can repeat it in a retail setup.
It's something we should hold that thought and come back to it later. But it's an important learning we hear about crowdfunding, That is, the people on Kickstarter are not like a good sample for market research. They are a very specific type of consumers who,
Yes.
I mean, who would say 200 euros. I'll give it a try.
Yeah.
Whereas in the shop or like in normal retail, nobody ever says, well, the people who walk in and say, oh, it's only 200 euros, I'll give it a try. Well, there are not too many of those. So that's it's something you have to take into account when you go.
You have to take into account. I would say that you even should design. If you want to go on Kickstarter, you have to think about what kind of products you bring in there. You could even design the kind of products that you want to launch on Kickstarter because of that audience.
Yeah.
And you can use it for market research if your audience is in that target.
Yeah. Yeah.
But otherwise,
okay.
you can't. It's some form of a proxy. So I think the third option is marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we were somewhere in between proving relevance and marketing. And it's probably, marketing is probably the best shot you can have in general for a product. In our experience now, discussing with some other startups who have been running crowdfunding campaigns, if you are break even on your Kickstarter and you're not losing money, you're good.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But it's great marketing.
Yeah. It's not easy to be I think that's an interesting quote. I think a lot of people think they're going to make money on their Kickstarter, but you're saying they're not. I see two things. One, the campaign costs money. I mean, you have to make a video, you have to nowadays even invest actually in traffic going there. And secondly, your product is probably not, I don't know the cost price of the current JOOKI, but the first batch was probably a lot more expensive than the second batch, let's put it that way. So that on a unit cost, you probably, nobody ever really calculates that because it's too complicated, but you have a gut feel like your selling price is close or is not so much above the unit cost probably. I don't know whether that was the case in JOOKI's case.
We have tried to get a grip on our costs, but you always slip. And as you say, the first units are usually more expensive. They can be more expensive from a manufacturing standpoint because your first units are a more expensive batch. Also, if you're trying to catch a deadline, you will end up throwing money at, for instance, faster transport.
Yeah.
So we were pressing very, very hard to be able to ship in time for Christmas to our backers, and
it worked.
And it worked. But we were importing these units by airplane in the Christmas period, which is the most expensive in time. And there were some other things, like the packaging wasn't ready. So we printed packaging here, which was expensive, and then we put the first units ourselves into packaging. You're doing all these. Our shipping costs, like to the backers, were not optimized. So because you're putting all these processes, so you end up spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
And this is only on a unit basis. Actually, when you're doing a hardware product, you have investments. You have investments in the tooling. You have investments in the engineering, and you have to have sufficient cash to make your first batch. And the amount of money you're looking at is somewhere between 500,000 to 1 million typically. That's the kind of cash that you want to have to launch a first batch of a product.
Did you have 1 million?
No.
Tell us how you did that.
Number of things happened. So I just wanted to say that, so on first of all, on the Kickstarter side, when you're having a Kickstarter of 1 million, it's also, you better make sure that you have your unit costs calculated right, because if you have a depth of 1 million in units and actually you still don't have enough to produce, then you're really into trouble. It has, Kickstarter has killed more than one company that was successfully funded, and it killed it because they were successfully funded.
Yeah, because you have to deliver, and they were not ready for that, or they were not funded to deliver.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And more than often, the Kickstarter is not sufficient for you to do that. So you need an investment. So we managed to get investments that allowed us to start the industrialization and to do the first production run.
I have a question about that, because, I do know a bit about JOOKI in the meantime, obviously, as an investor, and we go back in the meantime quite some time.
Yes.
And I bought the JOOKI off the Kickstarter. But when you say you're 3 engineers, you've developed it, and you're saying investing in tooling, but it's also produced in Asia, China? Yep. China it is, yeah. So when let's say, I don't know anything about production, I would say, oh, it's easy. Just send over the drawings and then they'll make it for you and look at it when it comes back. But that's not how it works, right?
It can work like that, but I think it's big risk. I see, again, coming back to a Kickstarter launched product, I think there are 2 types of companies launching that. You have marketing joints who are fantastic at marketing their campaign but don't know how to have it produced. And then you have folks like us who are a lot heavier on the engineering side and at the time a lot lighter on the marketing side. We've compensated that since. And you can go to manufacturers directly and they will claim that they can do the product, or you can go to intermediaries who will also take a tax on it. So you can outsource your engineering. We didn't, and it was very good not to outsource. At least the high level of our engineering, because this is a very complex product. It has Wi-Fi, it has Bluetooth, it has NFC, it has a full-fledged computer in there. So we architected that internally. Of course, the manufacturer helped us with the design, basically making it into an industrial product. But sometimes when you're hitting a glitch and you want to maintain a timeline, it was extremely useful that we had the expertise in-house because we could fix it. And actually my colleague Peter was in China. He flew there 11 times over a period of 12 months. I was there twice. We had Michael, another colleague, who was there 2 or 3 times. So we had to try. We were trying to have a permanent presence at the factory to make sure that things go smoothly in the industrialization process. Yeah.
And that is a factory that is used to building this type of products, or
it's a factory that is making quality audio products.
Yeah, so they know about speakers, they know about stuff like that.
Yes.
So you're not just walking into some factory somewhere in.
No, we spend a lot of time searching for factories and selecting them. We visited numerous factories in different industries, from the toy industry, from the audio industry. We ended up going with an audio industry factory because we wanted for this product we wanted a high audio quality, and it's basically a certain business, and that's not what can be done in other types of factories. But we spend a lot of time on the selection process and on the quality checking of the factory.
And then comes, so you deliver the JOOKIs.
Yes.
Life is great. Everybody happy.
Our hair is on fire. It's always on fire.
Yeah, big fun. And then, now, then you have to continue selling. You continued selling, after, once the Kickstarter or the other campaigns, or the crowdfunding campaigns were finished, you continued selling.
We kept the pre-sales open, yes.
Yeah, kept pre-sales open. Okay. And so you produced more probably in your first batch than what you sold in the Kickstarter. So,
yes.
Okay. But But then comes I guess the next phase. So how do you make this into a commercial machine?
So first of all, we went ahead and hired. We hired two great ladies in marketing.
Finally, some ladies in the house.
Who helped us from basically nothing. The only thing we had was a Kickstarter page. We didn't have a website. So they helped us, put that together with the whole digital sales machine behind it, with messaging, with imagery. We had to, put together a lot of elements. So we created actually a first website where we could continue our pre-sales, and we also went to distributors in selected territories where they could take these units and sell them both online and to retail. We had some early believers who really helped us a lot in on the distribution side. And well, what really happened is that we botched our Q4 last year. Basically, the units arrived too late.
Yep.
Certification, we got delays into certification. So, I mean, we got the units in time for the Kickstarters, backers, and we got some online sales, but we were like also learning as we were going. So we really launched the product in 2018.
Yeah.
And it's been, I think, a learning process on how to do digital sales and how to position our product. And very recently, we got somebody on board based in Los Angeles who has extensive expertise into marketing this type of tech toys, and who's bringing a lot of fire into the machine.
Is that a conscious choice to go for the United States? Because, I mean, let's say, simple logic would say, I mean, try to be a success in Europe first before venturing off to the other side of the ocean.
Yeah. There is an indication in our first pre-sales numbers, again on Kickstarter. The number one country was Belgium, because we are a local Belgian-based company. The second one was the US.
Okay.
And when you're looking at it, so we made sure, we're product people, so we made sure that the product is certified for Europe, for the United States, and for Canada.
Okay.
Because we had the ambition of going there. It's a huge market. It's just a huge market. So when we opened online sales on Amazon this summer, and when we opened Amazon in the US without doing anything, it was immediately 50% of our sales.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was without doing any marketing.
Wow. So it's a huge double your sales just by saying hello in the United States.
Yes. It's a huge territory, and it's very integrated compared to a European territory. When launching in Europe, we made some beginner mistakes. So we had the C certification, we had the C marking, but we've discovered that there are recycling regulations where you have to register, so the WEEE thing. And we knew that in Belgium it's not a problem. You can register in 1 day. In most countries you can register in 1 day. Germany, it's a process that takes 3 months.
Okay.
So you better plan for that in your product launch. And you can't go for it before you actually have the units.
Yeah. So you have to have the units.
I'm not 100%. Don't quote me on that one. I'm not 100% sure. But
anyway, but it's probably not the first thing you think of. Like, recycling.
Yeah, and so that's where it's also the first time for me where I realized what the difference is between a European regulation and a European directive. A European regulation means that it's the same law in all of the European countries. A directive means that every country has to transcribe it in their own local laws, and that's the case for recycling. Okay. So for recycling, you have to get registered with actually every country that you're going to, which is nuts. And then you have languages. I mean, in the US, you have to make one language, one packaging, and here we have to make, packaging in fundamentally all of the languages in all territories you want to sell to. So right now we have it in 3 languages, but really I want it in like maybe 5 or 7.
And ideally, because there's a limited space on a package, it's a relatively big box, but still, it's limited. So you would have different packages for different countries, but then.
And that's, then you have a huge complexity because you have different, stock keeping units. You have to do forecasting in a different way. It's a lot more expensive. Your volumes are, of course, reduced, so your printing costs are higher. Yeah. Your manipulation costs are higher. So it's quite complicated. Also, being different languages, you need a website in different languages, you need your digital marketing in different languages, you need customer support in different languages. So all that, when you're a small company, it adds up a lot.
Yeah. So you're a team of how many now?
Today we're 7 in Belgium and 1 in the US. A bit more than 1 in the US.
Yeah, a bit more, yeah. So that's 8 people. And then some hangarounds, let's say, so almost 10 people roughly. It's still a relatively small organization for, putting basically a consumer electronics product on the market that's, competes with Sony and Apple and, well, not directly on a product level, but you're in the same league, when you're in the same,
I'm not going to contradict you when you say that we're in the same league as Apple, but
you know what I mean. Yeah, you are. It's this product could. if it would have Apple on it, it would probably be different colors, but it could work. It's the same quality. So it's pretty amazing stuff to do with a team of such a relatively small team, let's say. And you, because we started your story from engineer Théo, EMAC. Chips, and then...
That was 18 years ago.
Yeah, well, still. And then, moving into business, and now what we've been talking about the last 20 minutes has been product for a part, but mostly business issues.
Yes.
And you're the business guy.
Yep.
And you have a family with kids. How do you combine that? Because, I see, we email every now and then, so I see them coming in at any moment of day and night. So how do you bring these things together?
Juggling. I learned to juggling when I was younger.
Can you do that with figurines? Can you?
Sure. Why not?
Voila.
Yeah, it's a balance that you have to find. Actually, my wife is also working full time, pretty crazy schedule as well. But yeah, from time to time it's tough, and then there are periods where it's better. So. I don't have a magic trick. I don't have a proper explanation of how we're doing it. I think it's.
You seem to be doing it.
Barely.
Yeah. But I was wondering, I've been in product a long time, not as an entrepreneur, but working at a product company, and there's a great joy in seeing it in the window, seeing people use it. It's magic.
Yes.
Still now, it's for me, it's more than 15 years ago I was in a product company, 18 years ago. And when I see those products, I'm like, oh, wow, we talked about that handle over there. So I can see that. But does it give you enough joy and being, you're not rich yet. That cannot be what motivates you. Getting rich, or at least not in the short term. So how do you see that balance? What makes it so fun? What makes it so fantastic?
Many things. It's very exciting because it's extremely diverse. So you go from nothing to seeing a product on the shelves, which is a great experience. And I know every single little bit of this and all the history, how we found a designer for this, and how it was a great story. I'm super, super happy with our designer. He designed both the player and the figurines. He's doing fantastic. He's done a fantastic job to bring it to the manufacturer, to solving all the crap we had to going into the financing and the financial modeling and the marketing. So it's a very exciting journey, and you're never bored, and you can jump from one topic to a completely different one. I mean, I remember, for instance, when I was at a factory in China, I was trying to fix quality issues, deciding on colors, deciding on materials, motivating people on electronics, discussing investments over the phone, recruiting at the same time. And yeah, I mean, a lot of things at the same time, and you have to go from one to the other, and that's something that I find exciting. You probably have to be a little bit crazy. But yeah, I think I'm living on that on that
entrepreneur's high.
On entrepreneur's high, and there is a creativity angle. I mean, having something really done, physically done, a real product, and coming up with new ideas, because we have also a lot of software on this. It's a connected device, it's a Wi-Fi device, so we are pushing updates regularly. So it's a whole creative process, and I think the creative process is what is probably attracting me most.
Yeah, and still, it's a tough job, I think. But hey, you're doing it, so. And you're still smiling. Always smiling, Theo, most of the time. So you say, let's go back to the product. You said there's new stuff coming up. Can you let us in on a secret, something new feature that's coming up?
Yeah, there's a new feature that's coming up. We're expecting it for some time, and it's the voicemail one. So the voicemail is different from what we're doing right now, where we let kids listen to music and stories. We actually now enable communication between a distant relative, parent, grandparent, and the child. So the way it works is that inside of the JOOKI app on your phone, you can leave a voicemail, and that voicemail is, so you basically record a message or a series of messages. Like, for instance, you could be reading a story, and each message is a different chapter.
Okay.
You record those and you send them to JOOKI. What happens is that your voice recorded is uploaded to the cloud. When JOOKI is turned on, all the messages are downloaded onto it. And then there is a notification that appears here, and that the kid knows that they have a voicemail. And then one of these characters, or maybe one of the tokens, maybe one that has the picture of mom or dad, is the one that the kid knows is for the voicemails. And they just have to put it on, and they can actually listen to these voice messages.
Okay, so you could have multiple. You could have like a token for grandparents and a token for the parent or mother, dad, mom, dad.
Yeah. We can create multiple voicemail boxes. Yeah. One cool thing we're doing is that from the app, you can share a link to that voicemail box with whomever you want to share it with. So, for instance, with the grandparents, and you can send it by email or by WhatsApp. They get a link. What they have to do is just press on the link. If they don't have the JOOKI application, it will be automatically installed, and then they can start also leaving voice messages on that particular inbox.
Okay, so you could invite grandparents to also tell a story.
Exactly.
I don't know whether that's going to work for grandparents will have to be rather tech savvy. Although I guess nowadays it should work. Some grandparents, younger grandparents, will be able to do that. It's kind of cool. And looking a bit further down the line in the future, that's a feature here. How many? Is 4 years you're working on JOOKI now?
The company
3 years.
We launched the company in 2015. We spent a year on really something else, so it took us 2 years to bring it to market.
But in your calculation, you're working on it 3 years, so you have 4 more years.
In my calculation, actually, I started on I think I found some pictures of this. The idea is from 2013.
Because I'm looking for your 7 years horizon.
I don't know if that repeats. You know, it was.
Maybe it'll be an eternal horizon now. But I was also looking for it like. So, I mean, there's more coming up. You're going to at least, let's assume it's you're working on it 4 years, and there's at least 3 more years coming.
Yes.
Any other products, any other plans you can share?
We have very exciting plans for next year. I don't want to share too much about those publicly, sorry. But basically, we're looking at broadening the product portfolio, so there are more products.
More JOOKIs.
There are more products in the same ecosystem coming up, and we're also looking at how to bring even more value to people. But yeah.
Okay. That was so cryptic, nobody will know.
Let me keep it that cryptic.
Let's keep it that. Something I was wondering, I haven't heard, because you just came up with me because you're speaking about voice messaging. Does it have a microphone? So can you record? Could you record voice?
Technically, yes, we have a microphone, but it is not currently active.
But that means that this could be an Amazon Echo for kids, basically.
It could. Though we think that the object-based interface has a lot of value. It's very natural. I mean, voice is of course a very natural interface, but you're using them in a different way. An object is you have a physical attachment to it. I mean, you will attach emotions to it. It's yours. So there's that emotional angle, and then there is very small kids can use it. Even before they can speak, they can just pop it on, and they will enjoy that without having to use the voice control. The other part of the story is that with this you don't have to be top of your mind. With voice control, you only listen to what you can name and can remember in that point in time. Whereas here you can have a collection of more things. And also as a parent, I can. Maybe together with you as a kid, I can decide to change that playlist and make you discover more things.
Okay, so it's really a vision of education, raising kids. When you say opvoeden in het Nederlands, pedagogie. What do you call pedagogie in it? I don't know in English.
Pedagogy, I guess.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
I don't know. So I mean, that aspect is in there too. I mean,
yes,
it's Does it work with your kids? I mean, do you actually do all of those things? Do you share playlists?
So yes, and then there is an evolution in the way the device is being used, and I've experienced that firsthand because my kids started using pre-prototypes of this when they were 3 and 4, and now they are 7 and 8. So,
so they're growing. They've outgrown it actually. Are they still
no, not yet. They're still using it. And the pattern has changed, so it went from me pre-programming the playlists with my own decisions to now to then kind of discussing with them what goes on the playlist, and now they come with requests on what they want in there, and they say like, please program that, please program this, please program that.
Okay.
And they still use it a lot. I mean, I have 2 daughters, and they are into dancing, and they use it a lot for dancing. They put together choreographies, and they're very happy that they can, start, stop this thing in a very easy way. They also take it. It's mobile, so it's battery powered. So they actually take it downstairs where they can party. We have some mirrors, so they bring their friends there, and they do dance, and they put together again a choreography. And what I've seen them recently doing was playing musical chairs. So it's that it's that game where you put you have like maybe 5 participants and only 4 chairs, and when they play the music, and when the music stops, they have to sit down, and then the one that stands up basically is eliminated. So they put together that game completely on their own, and what was really cool is that the one that loses actually doesn't lose, because then they become together. They get to become a DJ, and they get to hold the JOOKI and actually do the play pause. And actually, the play pause with the object is very natural for that, because
it's not like
if you remove it, it will pause and then it will play again. So it's a very, they still use it.
Cool. But I knew that already. No. And, as I said, I'm a fan of the product. To round up things, you've gained a lot of experience. You've kind of made your own. You're one of those rare people, I think, who have had a dream and have actually built it and brought it to market. What do you as a person take home from that? I mean, what does that do with you?
A lot. I mean, it got me to mature a lot as a person and as an entrepreneur. I mean, this is my first company, but I think a lot more confident in the way I'm approaching things. And I think I started to have a very clear view of how things are done. And yeah, I mean, I think already those two things for me personally are super powerful. The other extremely important part is putting together a team and turning that into an operating company. That's actually very, very rewarding. But it's, you asked me what I took away from it, but really what I'm looking for now is pushing this to the next level, making it into a planetary success and sharing it. I mean, we made this for ourselves, and yeah, we want to share it with the world.
And I'm going to answer the last question I have here, but I think I know the answer. If you would start again, you would definitely do it again, I think.
Oh, yes.
Okay, well.
Better and faster.
Better and faster even. Yeah, well, I have to congratulate you, Theo, on what you've accomplished here, and I look forward to working with you in the future. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bert.
Thank you, Theo, for this interesting discussion. Also, thank you, Jelle, for helping me out, making this look crisp and clean and not stumbling too much over my words. And that's about it. Hope to see you and hear you back on the next episode of my podcast.